This is the 24 by 30 that I'm getting ready to paint on. I put push pins in the corners. And it's got the crossbar for support, but I don't know if you can tell, this canvas is really, really loose. And also I want to show you the difference in better quality canvas versus just the cheaper ones. Like this corner here, these, it's stapled on the back, all of them are. There's no staples on the sides. But see, this on a really nice canvas, they either tuck under into another piece of wood here and you don't see any staples, or they're much neater on the corners. Like this is just literally folded over and it's loose. But this canvas, you can see my hands holding the canvas here. If I turn it over, I can get my whole hand underneath that bar in the middle, and that's not supposed to be the way it is. I switched water bottles. The other one was not spraying. You thoroughly coat the back of your canvas with water. So this is the fabric side that is unprimed. It's the linen or cotton or whatever duck canvas that it is. So it's basically unsealed fabric. The other side has gesso that is factory, done before it's shipped to the stores, and so that's called pre-primed. But so what I do is I go in and I spray and saturate this canvas on the back. And I'll rub it in with my hands. Already it's tightened up. You can even see kind of on the corners here where it's buckling a little bit. Like the canvas is not totally flat, so when it's fully dry and stretched, you should not have any buckles on your corners like that. You can see the dent. There's a dent here. So just make sure you wet it good. And I was going to use this canvas, but because it was so unstretched and not very tight, I'm not going to use it until it's thoroughly dry. But that's what you do to tighten up your canvases. They should be like tight as a drum here. So this one is a 24 by 36. This one it's tight, and here's the difference in this one versus the last one, is how I talked about the wood. It has a strip of wood, so the canvas is tucked in around the edges, and so you don't see any staples except for on the very corners. And then this is a different kind of fabric here. It's not as linen-y as the other one. It may even have a coat of something on it, but this is a different type of fabric. So I'm going to add my push pins on the corners. And if you wonder why we use push pins in the acrylic pouring world, it is to keep it off the table or surface so that you can get your fingers under it and not have your canvas sitting in paint that's laying on the surface of whatever you're working on, like sitting in a pool of paint and getting stuck to it or making a really big mess underneath. So this way with the push pins you can still get your fingers under the canvas to lift it and tilt it and that kind of thing. And I'll usually write somewhere on the back of my canvas so that instead of trying to eyeball it or having to measure it every time, you can just look where you've written it. This one I may use my pool trowel, which is in the Amazon recommendation link below all my videos. So this thing has been used. This is an acrylic surface. This is not metal. I had a metal one that was bigger than this, and I ended up cutting my hand or finger along the edge because it was so sharp. So this is a thick acrylic plastic blade. I also use my cheap paint scrapers. This is a Wilton icing tool. that I have a couple of that came as a set, and I think they're in my link, the Amazon link. I use an old store card for smaller areas that I want to swipe. Use a butter knife instead of a palette knife. I have combs and different things that I use for different textures. So I'm trying to decide today what colors I want to use. My squeeze bottles do have silicone in them. I'm going to mix up, this is a neon orange. I want it to be really vivid. I'm thinking about putting, these are fluorescent colors, but I don't want them real fluid. I want some body to them. So I'm looking around for a different paint here. So I don't see anything, I don't see any more neon yellow oranges that I have a glow in the dark, but I don't want to use glow in the dark. I'm trying to get the last little bit out of this bottle. I'm going to add, this is Primary Yellow by Dollar Rowney. I forget where I got this paint from. So I want to brighten this orange up. Make it really bold, so that's better. Add a little bit more. You can always make your own colors if you don't have the colors you want. So this is a much more yellow orange, which I like better, because I have my deeper orange that's the standard orange, and then this is going to be, I'll get my shirt in it too. My other squeeze bottle paints have Floetrol in them. 1:1. When I'm doing squeeze bottles, I like my paint to be no more than 1:1 ratio. If nothing else, even more paint than Floetrol, because you actually like a thicker paint coming out of your squeeze bottles. It gives it more body to stand up and not flow out and flatten on your canvas. This is fluorescent orange. And now that I've added my acrylic paint, I'm going back in with this fluid paint and I'm going to adjust it. So I've got a nice bright orange. Now I technically don't have, I think I have a squeeze bottle or two, but I'm not going to put just this little bit of paint in a squeeze bottle. So what I'll do is I'll make it into a little point with my paper cup here. This is a 3-ounce paper cup, bathroom cup, and that way I can do it without having to use a squeeze bottle. I'm going to keep that neat. I'm going to keep this out in case I just want to squirt it straight out of the bottle. So today I'm going to use that orange, my neon orange, and I'm not putting any silicone in this because I don't really want a lot of cells. I'm going to have cells because of the paint squeeze bottles having silicone in them already, but I'm not really going for cells. So this is dioxazine purple, which is the dark, deep purple that I love. There's the Floetrol. Always make sure it's latex based. I'm going to use red, and this is my deep magenta color. And just to make sure, I'm going to squeeze a little of this Artist Loft deep magenta into my squeeze bottle, straight in. Because if anything, I want it to be a little thicker than it already is. On the swipe paintings, like I said, my preference is that the paint comes out a little bit thicker than what I would do for acrylic pouring. You want a little bit more body in the swiping paints. And what causes the cells is the silicone, which is like treadmill lubricant, like this is Spot On treadmill lubricant. That's what's in the squeeze bottles. Or if I did a pour and I had some paint left in a cup and I put it into my bottle, it might have had some coconut milk in it. Same difference, really. I'm going to use black, the yellow. I'm going to use my metallic gold. And if that metallic, I like the metallic gold to really kind of stand up off the canvas. If that's not thick enough, I'll even maybe squeeze it straight out of a bottle to get it to be a little thicker. Sometimes it's hard to remember what's in my bottles. If I can't remember, I squeeze it out on my hand. So that's brown. And then this one is bronze. I want the bronze. I may or may not use copper, but I'm going to put that out just in case. And if I hadn't used these in a while, I make sure the openings are good at the end of the bottle. I've got my white paint, which will go over my canvas in a very thin coat. I don't think I'm going to use this, but I'm pulling out the alizarin crimson. A lot of these are deco art colors. I think those are the colors I'm going to use. So I'm going to put my gloves on. I don't like these gloves. They're too big for my hands. I have big hands, and these are bigger than my hands. But they're what I have right now. I hate to buy something and not use it. So I'm not really going for sales, but there will be sales because the silicone is in the bottles. And there's nothing I can do about that without emptying all my paint out and not using silicone. And I'm not going to do that because then I'd be wasting my paint. So I just want to skim this out very quickly just to have a light layer of white paint. And then what it does too is it helps your paint, and I put too much paint on here, I don't even need this much, but it helps your paint that you're squeezing out. It just helps it move around on the canvas a little bit easier, but I could basically start this painting with a dry canvas if I wanted to. It just doesn't slide around quite as easily. But I have done it on dry canvases before, so it is possible to do it that way. And I should have done that with this. The only thing is when you put a white or a black layer on the bottom or whatever, if you coat your canvas first, when you are swiping, you have to keep in mind that you have to do it very, very gently. And when I say gently, I mean like you're skimming the surface where you're parallel with the canvas. I'm going to go around and make sure my edges are covered with the white. And if I have any color that goes over the edge, then my sides are painted white, just like the top of the canvas. That way it'll all flow together and make sense. So now I'm just going to try to level this out just a little bit more. And because I'm working on a kitchen table that is round, and I have other things back here, the camera and things like that, I have a limited amount of space that I can put the canvas on. So sometimes I have to turn my canvas and do things like that because of the size of the space of the table. And this is not like super, it's not super thick, so it should level out pretty well as it sits here. And it may even start to dry as I paint, because that's what generally happens is I do a thin coat and then it starts to dry as I'm doing my swiping. So when I decide to paint is when my husband decides to go mow the grass. So I apologize for any background noise. I'm probably not going to talk while I film the rest of it. And if that's the case, then I can also quieten the video and you won't hear the lawnmower in the background. I have kind of an inspiration photo I'm working with. So that's kind of what has given me this idea to do this. And this may be one of my more abstract pieces. I'm not doing the typical swiping like I normally do. And when you swipe, you need to wipe off your tool. So I didn't like what it had done right there, so I swiped it off and just putting white back on, and hopefully that'll level out. I am going to put a little bit of the color shift paint straight out of the bottle. Switch to this one for this. So I don't like that separation of color here, but go back here. I'll put a little purple rain here. Instead of pulling out the color shift paint, I'll just do that. And put some of that bright orange again. And magenta. So I'm going to redo this area right here. So now, I want this area here to look kind of like it's a flame. So I'll put a little of this fluid Hansa yellow just for the heck of it. A little alizarin crimson there too. But I want to make sure this is very red feeling and fiery. I'm going to turn the canvas so I can swipe it more easily in this direction. So I think what I'm going to do down here is tie in that purple again, coming down this direction. And this bright orange. Little red. But I want it to feel very purple. So I've got to tie in all this together somehow too, so I'm just adding colors until I figure out how I'm going to make that work. And I'll probably do it with a smaller tool. But I love the cell action going on. It is beautiful. I don't like this. I'll probably just take that area off. Pour a little bit of white back onto it and just skim it a little bit. If you have anything that's dried on your thing you're kind of squeegee in with, it'll leave grooves, and that's what's happening. So I'll just put more paint and keep trying one of my scrapers that will leave a flatter. That's working a lot better. I just didn't have enough paint down. So I don't want to mess up what I've already done. So I'm very lightly skimming the top. I'm trying not to disrupt what's underneath it. Make sure my tool is totally clean and nothing's in the way when I make my swipe that goes off the canvas. And the reason for the holes is I probably just didn't put enough paint on the canvas in order for it to drag all the way across, and that's okay. I'm just explaining to you why there's some gaps. So I'm just basically taking my finger, I had a little bit of purple from the edge, and I'm just dabbing. I'm not going to do anything in that area though. Little splashes that I don't like, and I'm just getting rid of those. But now, because it is kind of abstract but it's really bold, I want to add a little bit more boldness to it. I am going to take the black and I'm going to zig up and off the canvas. And I'm going to get the paint off the floor. Like, this is kind of neat here. I don't want that there, but I'm trying to see if I can get that to blend in a little bit better. And if I add something here, And of course this is going to drip out. And I don't want dots, but if I run my butter knife through it, that kind of takes care of that problem. So I'm going to use the bronze here. Basically, I'm just filling in the gap right there. And I'm going to take this bronze and bring it up into my paint. Basically, I'm thickening that line up. Add some gold on top of that. And just kind of let it bleed into it a little bit. Hopefully it'll bleed into it. And I'm going to take this over here. And this is where I'm going to take my, it's like a, kind of like what a trowel has, like when you're doing grout work. So it just makes the grooves there. I'm going to do it here. Shall I dare do it? I am. Just a bit. And I think right here, thickening up that gold. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing. Just at the bottom. So it kind of has a feathery feel. I don't know. It depends on how you scrape it as to how it's going to look. I had pulled copper out, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to take this gold right along the edge here. And bronze. So this one, I want to be able to control more, and I'm not going to use the, I'm going to use a comb. I like the gold on top better than the bronze on top, so I'm going to just go back over the edge. So then I'm going to take the black over this way. Add a bit more gold. This is definitely more abstract, but I like it. Kind of wish this was more like that. Add my black back. The bronze is there pretty strong. Do the gold again. With it, see, with it being a straight, heavy tool, So I'm just closing up the gaps where it kind of scraped into the other paint. It doesn't look like that, but it's closer than the combed effect. So the only thing is, do I leave the white here? I think I will. And I think I'm going to just take this gold . Swish it through. So to get a sharper point, if you want to with your, and you can't do it with your bottle, you just take something that's flat and straight and you just pull it through and it'll make that sharp point. This end here. Since it's kind of iffy. I like to keep photo paper around. It sticks to photo paper like glue, and I just dropped it in the middle of my paint. So anyway, those are pretty colors. It looks very fiery and pretty. And I'm going to clean off this little area of the magenta. I'm not sure what I quite did in this area, but it almost looks like I put my hand in it or something. So I'm just going to go back in and fill in with some white. I have a flow that I like everywhere. So it's kind of wild and colorful and a little bit on the abstract side, which I like. I've been wanting to do one of these lately. Like I said, I didn't necessarily want the cells, but the silicone is in the bottles, so that's what it's going to be, because there is silicone in the bottles. Even though, you know, a few of the paints that I used did not have silicone, it still makes cells because of the other paint around it. See if I can do some white, just thicker white. So I kind of got back into the yellow that was thick enough to where it would go back. So like some of it comes over the edge of the canvas and some doesn't, and I just want to make sure it has some bit of semblance of a flow. Still does not, because I scraped away, it's not doing right. So I'm going to see if I can add a little back into it. Get my canvas back on the table, because it's not on the table right now. That way it's level, paint won't flow off. So there it is. I hope you enjoyed it. I like to do all kinds of things. I like to do the abstract, I like to do real, I like to do acrylic pours, I like to do swiping. So I'm not going to always just bring one bit of artwork to the table. It's always going to be something a little different every time, I hope. So thank you for watching. Forgot to heat it. The cool thing too, I wanted to make a point about these kind of paintings where you swipe, is it's a very thin layer of paint. The thickest part is where the lines have been added together multiple times. These kind of paintings dry pretty quickly, like definitely in 24 hours they're done. So the great part about this is if after it dries I decide it's missing something, I can still put a little, you know, jagged color of something to make it just as abstract looking as it is now. So that's the great part about this being a swipe of a sort, is that it dries very quickly, within 24 hours. And this frame is what I'm going to show you how I bought it. Let me zoom out here, because I'm going to show you how I'm going to put the other one in. So here's my Wings of Love, and you know, it's finished. This is just varnish, it's not resin, but it just shows you how glossy your varnish can turn out. And this is a 24 by 36 canvas, and it's just a regular depth canvas. So it's not the deep one, it's just the regular canvas depth. And this is a frame just like the other one, and I wanted to show you. This is a 24 by 36 canvas, and it's gallery frame. So what happens is it looks like a deep frame on the sides, but you basically undo the clips. I'm going to try to do this quickly for you. You take out this back board. This frame at Jerry's Artorama was $60, and that's really actually a pretty good price for a ready-made frame. So you just take out the paper, and it has a heavy-duty piece of plastic, which I don't need. So what you do is you take your canvas and you just drop it right in. And you take your board and you put it back in, and you just push the clips in. I'm kind of spastic with these clips a little bit. So then you turn it over, and your canvas looks like it's there's the wet paint. I had wet paint on the table, white paint, so it's like, where on earth is it coming from? But anyway, so there it is, and it looks like a deep canvas frame from the sides and the back and everything, but it's all ready to go. So now I have these two paintings are going to an exhibition in Winston-Salem, in another town, and I've got to deliver them Tuesday, so I'll be taking these. But here is this one that I had painted earlier on the video, and it's about 6 hours later, and it is dry to the touch except for right in that area. That's the beauty of the swiping, is your paint is thin enough to where it dries pretty quickly. But I wanted to add a little bit more to this. Like right here, I didn't put gold, I just put the bronze, so I wanted to go back and add the gold. And with it being on top this time, it will not level out so much. But I want the gold on fairly thick, where it almost kind of stands up off the canvas a little bit, and has a little bit more 3D feeling. Because I want that gold to kind of sit on top. So I kind of want to add just a strand of red somewhere. So just kind of casual. And if my purple were in a better bottle, I would probably add purple, but the thing is too broad. Decide if I wanted to add anything else color-wise. I think I just like the red and I just wanted to add that gold more three-dimensionally. But I think I'm going to leave it the way it is otherwise. But I just wanted to show you how in a matter of 6 hours this is virtually dry, except for the central part where the paint is swiped from, and it's a little bit wet right here. So there is this. So it's abstract looking, and that may not appeal to some people, but I do love the colorful boldness of it, so I'm pretty pleased with it. And my white leveled out as it dried. When you do a painting like this, it's not about perfection. It's kind of, to me, it's about just going with the flow and making it fluid and lively and colorful and joyful, that kind of thing. So I'm pleased with the way it turned out. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.